the top. Okay, great. All right. So there's certain elements. Now, the advantage that we have these days is that we have software that we can use. But a couple of years ago, like even some of us when we were in film school, then there was no software, there was just either you had typewriters, so you had to know this format precisely. The points, the fonts you need to use, the margins you need to leave, you understand? Why? Because it's constructed in a way that you can be able to tell time. Like, the fonts are Korea 12 or something like that. So if you type like that, it gives you an approximate of a page to 1 minute of screen time. Okay? So that's, if somebody tells you, okay, I want a 25 minutes script, okay? That means, you're averagely going to get, give or take, 25, 28, that kind of thing. So it gives you, so that's why that's very important, why this format is very important. It helps you to be able to at least get close to an approximate screen time. So that if it's a screenplay, and this is the mistake a lot of people make, somebody will say, I want to make a feature length film. Now we're talking of over 60 minutes now, okay? Sometimes an hour plus. Now somebody will come and then give you a 40-page script, and you will accept it. But at the end of the day, when you go to shoot, you find out that you don't have enough screen time to make up. So that is when you start adding things that you don't want to add. But like I said before, we're lucky that we have softwares which are already calibrated for that. So you don't really need to touch anything. The only thing that you shouldn't touch, okay, that if you should be very careful about, you should make sure that the points are correct, the font is correct, okay? I had a recent experience. A writer, we did a 13-episode series, and the writer wrote the episodes for me, 22, 20, 25 minutes, not knowing that she had adjusted from Korea 12 to 22. So of course, when you're reading it on your laptop, it looks, it's when you print it out, then you realize, oh my God, okay? And so we had those challenges. So it's very important if you're using the software too. All right. So elements that you find in a screenplay format, the first one is what you call the screen heading, or as the Americans will call it, a slug line. Okay? All right. Interior General Hospital Consulting Room Day. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that, all right? The scene heading tells you, I told you, the script is told scene by scene, okay? So that is the scene heading, and it tells you what is happening in that particular scene. Interior means inside. If it's EXT, means it's happening outside. So how this works for some people is you're a cinematographer and you get the script. Okay, you know this scene, whether it's scene 3 or scene 4 or scene 1, you know it's going to be inside. Inside what? A general hospital, and precisely a consulting room in a general hospital, and it's going to be at the daytime. Now, let's say you're a cinematographer and you get this, okay? Or it's changed to exterior, lobby, no, exterior, hospital car park, night. What would that determine for you as a camera person? What will be the difference now as we're a camera person? And I know there's some people here that are aspiring camera people. Now, let's say you get this scene, interior general hospital consulting room, or you get another one, exterior general hospital car park night. In preparation to shoot this scene, how would it work out for you as a camera person? Anybody has the guts to answer?
To affect how you use the light, how you set your light, and how you make use of the natural light.
And the same thing too, if you're a location person, when you get this, you know that I need to get a hospital and a consulting room that, or a room that looks like a consulting room in a hospital. So this is why, this is the importance now, the blueprint, the book of instructions. Anybody that picks it up, whatever it is, whichever department you're in, you understand your particular, what you need to do in that particular scene, okay? And that is how it works throughout the script itself. So, one, scene heading, very important. You open a scene with a scene heading. You must. There's no deviation when it comes to that. A scene heading, or sometimes it's called a slug line. The next one, which follows. Now you see how the scene heading is. It's in capital. It's in block. It's in block letters. It's also bold. Okay. It's different from the rest now of the things written down. Now the next thing you see, the other one that looks like a sentence. Now Akasa 38 sits up on the bed, buttoning his shirt, while Dr. 40 looks at his X-ray. Akasa coughs. You notice how simple. That's another thing again. When you're writing on a screenplay, it should be simple. By reading this, you already understand what's happening. Okay? It's been captured. You don't need to use too many words. But what you notice is that what the scriptwriter is trying to tell you is that there are two characters here, and then she has also specified the ages. So as a director, when you're doing your auditions, you're looking for people within that age range. Okay? But what also the screenwriter has done is that she or he has not specified really what they're wearing, which means it gives whoever it is that's going to be the possible costume person the leeway to do whatever it is they want to do. If let's say they're specified, okay, Dr. 40 wearing whatever, you understand? It's also a guide to you. Now, I know if I ask my film students, they will understand. They will know the answer. If you notice that, okay, sorry, can we just go down a little bit? Maybe to the next scene. Okay, no. Down a little bit. Okay, wait, hold on. You see, Akasa and two teachers deliberate. Now, notice here, Akasa is written, I mean, it's not all the letters are not bold, yeah? But so let's go back to the first. Okay. Now, in writing, one of the major rules is that when you're introducing a character for the first time, you capitalize all the letters, okay? That is why you see Akasa, Doctor are capitalized. But later on, if you find them within the other scenes, the name is written normally, just the first letter of the name is in capital letters, the rest. Why? Is because it's easier for a production manager or first AD to pick up and know how many characters we're going to have. So anywhere you see a character's name characterized, you circle it, that it won't be capitalized again. So it saves you the trouble of looking. So if there's another character that comes in again, so it helps you to know the number of characters that you have. We're looking at this thing not from the artistic perspective, you understand? We're looking at why this screenplay format is important. Okay? So I hope you understand what we're doing. All right. So Akasa 38 looks up on the bed, buttoning his shirt, while Doctor looks at his. So that part now is what you call the action. Okay? The action. Why? Because it tells you what is happening in that scene. Are you following me? All right. What is happening in that scene? Next thing is the dialogue. And the good thing is that when you have your software, all these elements are there. Okay? So even if you're not sure what to do, you can be able to click on it and it gives you. And you notice the dialogue now, where Akasa am I going to live, is written differently. It's centralized, okay? And then the dialogue is there. Are we understanding? All right. So what's the next thing that's there? What comes next? After that first dialogue, what is there? Yeah, it's action. If you notice, it's written. So it's telling you what follows after. Then next, we just see the dialogue continues. Okay? Can we get the next scene? Still continues like that. Interior, Premier High School Hall, day. The student debate is going on. Yeah. Still, see, you know. Okay, can we just, all right. This scene, Interior, Premier High School Proprietor's Office, day. What does that tell us? Can somebody help me answer this? Yeah, no, preferably somebody that I don't know. No, I know why you know. Anybody wants to try? Yeah, good.
All right. It shows that it's an interior inside the proprietor's office, and it's a daytime, so much lights are not needed from the.
Well done. So now, let's look at the action. Dauphin is seated behind her desk, visually told. You don't need any other too much dialogue, too much words. Principal Ajit Murno, age is there, is seated at the visitor's seat. Now, notice that, how many characters are there? 2, right? Now, what do you notice from what I explained earlier about introducing?
The first character's name is written with small letters because that's the first part that the character is appearing on the scene. The Dauphin, you said once a character is appearing on a scene for the first time, you write the character's name in capital letters. Yes, that's the only mistake. Dauphin is coming for the first time. You know, Dauphin is already in other scenes, so that's why it's appearing in small letters.
Good, well done. Anybody has a different opinion? So basically, that is how it goes, you know. But the thing is that it's easy to say it, but when you sit down behind your computer and you want to do this now, that is where the problem starts. Because I've noticed that, yeah, a lot of people at a point in time won't even know the difference between how to put the character's dialogue, or you find them using action for dialogue, you know, sometimes dialogue for action. But the thing is that all you have to do is, the simple thing is to understand the elements. They're all there in the software. The scene heading is there. The action is there. Character's name is there, first of all. Then the dialogue. Because if you notice, the character's name is centralized, but the dialogue, it's not like, you know. So it's always, it's there in the software. So you, scene heading, action, character's name, dialogue, etc., etc. There are other elements like that, but the most important thing is that you should be proficient in these first 4 elements, okay? When you understand them, it's easier for you to get to know the rest, okay? All right. So, long and short of it, can we also, can we just go? No, not to the beginning. No, let's just towards the now. Okay. Yeah. All right. Exterior primary high school, outside exam hall, day. Somebody going to try that for us? Or should I just pick anybody?
I think this principal Aji is appear. What? Okay, the Premier High School outside exam hall day. This telling us that we don't even need light because it's daytime.
Let me clarify something. This scene heading is not just for the camera person. What I'm just saying is that it tells you, for whatever your department is, that, okay, or even you're the director, you know that there are different scenes, but this scene is happening outside a Premier High School. You understand? You got it, but it's not, don't just limit it to the camera person. It's not limited to the camera person. Now, who can read out the action for us?
Simi is seated, sobbing. Principal Ajit steps up to her.
Why are the names not all boldly written?
Because it is appearing twice. It's not the first time they are appearing this. Yeah.
All right, that's nice. Okay. So what's the dialogue? So someone read out the dialogue for us. Let me see. Looking for people that don't know.
Stand up. Stand up.
Who says so?
Principal Ajit.
Now, under it, all right. There's the parenthesis, which you also find in one of the things you find in the elements there, okay? And it's used to qualify the dialogue, okay? Another mistake that most people make is they use that point, they use the parenthesis, and then they write action under it. No, you only use it when you want to qualify the dialogue. So we know Principal Ajit is saying stand up, but he's saying stand up quietly. Okay? So this is another, this one is for the actors. Whoever it is that's going to act as Principal Ajit will know at this point in time when I'm delivering my line, I'm not delivering it harshly, I'm delivering it quietly. All right? I know where time is almost, so maybe we can just, if there are any questions when it comes to script writing, even what we have not touched, if there's anybody who has anything to ask, I think it's now time to ask.
Good morning, everyone. Mine is not actually a question, is the fact that this script is well written. And I'm also grateful, sir, to have learned script writing through you, because it's through you that I started writing a screenplay. I'm grateful that this script is not littered with cut to, fade to, and all of that. So I appreciate you, and thank you, sir.
Okay, I think what he's trying to say is that sometimes when people write, okay, they add all these instructions, which at the end of the day, the director just does what he has to do, really. So you don't really need to put all those things, transitions for the director. Okay, there's somebody.
Sorry, I have a question concerning the write-up, you understand?
Okay, the
like
script.
most times, yeah, the script, sorry. The script, most times, when we tend to make use of our system to get something like that, it's actually most time not very accurate. But I don't know, is there any other recommendation? Because I heard that there's a professional script, like an app they make use to write nicer works like this. So I don't know.
Okay, what do you use to when you're writing?
Okay, sometimes I make use of my system, but...
No, which software, what do you use to?
Okay, Celtex.
Celtex is also, it works. Okay. It might not be the, give you professional, but it's still, you can work. The thing is that understand the elements. Usually that's just the problem. Understand, okay, is this a scene heading? If you click on it, automatically everything will be calibrated to give you the scene heading. Is it action I'm trying to write? just, if you're not sure, click, it will give you. Is it dialogue? But you need to understand those elements first. So usually it's that lack of understanding that usually causes our problem. All right, I think this, okay, maybe then.
Okay, good morning. I am Inchevelno David from UG. Sir, I want to ask, why is it that the use of subtext is not usually used in Hollywood, Nollywood, in like in scripting the works, the scriptwriter does not always use subtext. I don't know why. Is it because the actors don't give the writer what he needs, or?
Well, I don't know. I really can't answer that. But I'm sure, because we really have a lot of good writers in this country. So sometimes it gets lost in the interpretation. You understand? You might give it to a director who is a competent craftsperson, can put this, but they don't understand those nuances now when it comes to subtext. So probably it gets lost in translation or interpretation. Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of them understand subtext. Or again, maybe the feeling is from the actors to interpret it. But I think at the end of the day, the fault is on the director anyway. Yeah.
Okay, Oluwatimileye by name. And my question may sound somehow funny, but I've noticed it a lot.
Okay.
Like, I want to ask, is there any rule backing up scripts in such a way that they cannot do it front and back? Because I've seen script of over 100 pages, and by the time you flip it, the other side is empty. You have to make it front and back so that the script will look lesser, and for we that don't like it.
I think it's easier when you read it that way then. Well, maybe if you want to do your own like that, you can do it. But you need to let everybody know that that's how you're doing it. But it really, it doesn't work that way. Because even from the, what's it called now, from the software, it doesn't give you that opportunity to do that. Okay, sorry.
It's easier to just slide it and
exactly, it's easier to slide it and then, because, you can, and then there's this one, this one's in production management, when you're marking the scene, you're marking the script itself, it's page by page. It helps you also determine a lot of things. So it's easier when it's, like I said, it's a blueprint. So everybody that gets it, if you understand what it's telling you, production manager will look out for different things, actors look out for different things, director looks out for different things, the AD looks out for different things. But it's a book of instructions for everybody on that set. Okay? So it's easier when you do it different pages, okay?
Good morning. My name is John Ray, an NFI student. So my question is particularly about story structure. So we know, like, basically when writing a script, there are like three basic aspects when writing a story: the beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
So I was reading through a tutorial that taught where you divide the middle into two aspects. That is, when you're talking about the character's journey in the beginning, you introduce the story as to the character's normal environment and how he reacts to the environment, and then before the end of the first part, you introduce challenges, right, that he has to overcome. Now, when you get into the second part, this person was talking about dividing it into two, where his challenges actually overwhelm him, and then he realizes something new that he has to acquire to overcome his challenges, and then in the next part of the middle, he overcomes the challenges eventually before the actual climax, where everything is good and fine.
Okay.
Now, my question is this: is that applicable to short films too? Because it kind of looks like if you're trying to tell a story in a concise period of time, going through all that highs and lows might be kind of difficult to.
Yeah, it might not be that easy to achieve. But if you also understand what they call the acts now, either you're using the 3-act structure, 5-act structure, whatever, you understand. You also need to understand what is involved. There's an introduction, there's whatever it is, then there's a resolution. So in those few minutes that you have to tell a short film, you should be able to just put these things like that, yeah. But then also it depends on what kind of film you're telling. Because most short films you find out are more art house than, you know, but you can still also tell a very good narrative without, yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah,
my name is Matthew from NFI. So I want to ask about the limitation of writers when writing a script, because I was going through the script and I did not see most of the under the element shots. Are writers limited not to write about, like, I went through some Hollywood scripts. You see writers writing a shooting script, which is for the production, which is the blueprint itself. But in most Nollywood scripts, you see writers have their limitations and directors do most of the job in terms of the shooting script. So I want to know, are writers limited to writing just the script only and not the shooting scripts? Or they are also permitted to write also the shooting script where the shots are allowed to take place and transitions also allowed there?
Okay. I think even in Hollywood, the writer is not really allowed to put in all those things. It's usually later on at the end of the day. Because you're not sure of the locations, you're not sure of, so you can't just start putting in shots, you know. And for me personally, I think a writer has no business. Just write the story, okay? There's a way you're going to write it that every director will read it and know that, yes, I need to give a close-up here. Or I'll read it, he knows that, yes, I need to get a wider shot. But you don't need to include all those things. Because really, for me, I think it's too distracting for the director, okay, even for the producer. So really, just knock those things out and just write your story and stick to the script format. Any more questions? Okay.
Okay, sir. I just want to get more understanding about a screenplay is a blueprint. That's all, sir.
What's a blueprint? If you understand what's a blueprint, what do you think?
I think based on what you told us.
What do you understand by blueprint?
I think it's a guide or an instruction to a production.
Okay, it's the format itself is a guide. There's a story in it, but the format itself is written in a way that guides everybody. Like I said, you pick it up. You're a camera person. You understand what you need, and it's told scene by scene. So for each scene, you pick it up. If I'm a props person, if I read a screenplay, I'll understand what I need to make available at that particular, you know, for that particular scene. You're a locations manager, you know that, okay, this scene is saying we need this. So I need to get a place, okay, or building that can actually represent what is written by the writer. So that's what we call it a blueprint. It's a plan, really. And that's why it's not really regarded as a work of art. You can walk into a bookshop and then you buy any theater stage play written by any writer. But you can't walk into a bookshop and then pick up a screenplay. Okay?
My question, hello everybody, my name is Peace. My question, I'd like to ask about the business of screenplay.
Okay, screenwriting.
You say?
Business of screenwriting.
Yes, the business of screenwriting. Because, okay, as a writer, when you publish a book, you get paid royalties. As a screenwriter, when you write a play for screen, do you get paid something like royalties? Whenever the play, or the way the producer follows the lifeline or the lifetime of the film, get paid any money? Or is it that you just write and submit and you get paid peanuts and you walk away?
Well, it all depends. Why I said it all depends is most times you're just a hired gun or a hired hand, okay? Somebody hires you, you write, and you're paid off. Sometimes, again, you might decide that, it's happening a lot in television, so that's why you have what they call showrunners now in television dramas, where the writer also comes in as a producer, so that, you know, the essence of that story is not lost. So you find that that can help too, because I think it's something that maybe most writers should take. Write and also try and factor yourself in as a producer too. So that way, anyway, you still earn, you know, streams of revenue even long after, you know, the thing has been shot. But if not, you will just most times just a hired hand. All right, I think I'll take one more question then. Okay, just, she's been raising up her hand.
Good morning.
No, let him talk. Then after that,
Yeah, my name is David Olutayo. I'm NFI student. Okay, my question is this. As a screenwriter, now writing my script and then giving it out to the director to shoot. Now, they say the director has to bring out the creative and everything from the script. Now, why is it when you give a script, the director changes the whole story? And then as a screenwriter, you wrote the story yourself and you're looking, this is not the story I wrote, but it's being changed into something else. Is there something that, is there a way we can fight that, or say, why will you change my script? Because they say director can change the story anyhow, he can turn it this way. But as a scriptwriter, I should have my say that this is how my story should go.
well, like I told her, you're still just a hired hand. In fact, when the director changes the whole story, the problem is not for the screenwriter, it's even for the producer. Because you usually have that situation, you already have a script, you've hired the writer, you've paid the writer off, you've gotten your director, now the director decides to just get some artistic, the man will just decide to change your story, and which can be very frustrating. So I think, except, like I told her, if you want to come in as a producer now, then that's where you can be able to stick to the essence of your story without it being changed. But if not, you're still a hired hand. Okay, one last question.
Good morning. My name is Ruth. Sir, in the place whereby you're writing a script for a documentary, a humanitarian documentary, and you're not the person telling the story, can you still use the same format?
No. Thank you for that, because I needed to have even told you at the beginning. For documentary, it has its own different format. It's not like this. This is for fiction, or narrate. It's for fiction. Not direct. Documentary has its own different style, which is very simple anyway. But still, you need to understand what you're doing before you can write. Okay. All right. Okay.
Let me just say something. Somebody asked about shooting script. We have different environment we operate in. We had last year's shoot, or last 2 years, but we also had the big boys in the industry seated. I know Dr. Afolabi was seated, and he gave a talk, I think on something on directing. This question came up, and these are the core people in the industry. And he said, within Nigeria, this operates mainly by the contract you go into. Yeah. And then everything is according to how, you spelt out what's possible and what's not possible. So you go by that. But like the teacher or speaker said, most of the time the scriptwriter is settled. They just discuss with you, pay, and then you hands off. Except you go into a contract agreement and that you'll be a part of it all the way. And then who actually interprets is the artistic director, who brings in all the creativity, yes. And so why would you write a shooting script for a director? You are not in his head or her head to know how he or she wants to interpret it. And that's why shooting script is actually between the director and the DOP. Those are the people that will now bring the creative parts of the script out of it. And so this is how it has always obtained. But if you listen to the talk yesterday, there was so much stress about agreements. Know where you stand and know what you're going in for. It doesn't work for you. You don't go into it. It works for you. Everybody plays by the rules, put down. And so for shooting script, it was actually my focus. It's something the director will work out himself. And then that will be left between him and then what he communicates to the DOP, not the script writer.
Thank you. All right. I think have a nice day, and we'll see you around.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Edmond Obi. I work with the Nigerian Film Corporation. I have taught at the Film Institute for close to 2 decades, several courses. So I'm told that there's supposed to be a session going on now, but since they're not around, so I'm just standing in for them. So I'll briefly discuss issues around directing for the movie. But because we don't have that kind of time to discuss the details, and because directing cannot be discussed just like that, I have just chosen to attempt to scratch the surface by way of having an interaction with all of us. And I'm going to have this session by way of asking a lot of questions as to what directing is all about. Now, if you have a script as a movie director, if you have a script in your hands and you are asked to go direct, as a director, what do you do within this small space? What do you do as a director? And like I said, we're just going to scratch the surface as quickly as possible in order for us to be able to pick 1 or 2 things out of these few minutes. It's important that you consider issues such as your budget. You need to have a budget to work with. How you go about your budget, I don't know, but the issue is that you're going to work with humans, you're going to work with equipment, you're going to work on locations, you're going to work on a number of other things. You will need welfare, you need all of those things. And therefore, having a budget should be very paramount. Like I said, we don't have all the time. And if I mention budget, handle it the way you've got to handle it. I'm not going to tell you spend your money this way or don't spend it that way. Understand that you need a budget. Now, you will need to have your cast and crew depending on the kind of story what we're talking about. Do you need 10-man casts? Do you need a 20-man crew? Whatever. You need to deal with the issues of your casts and crew. It's also important that you consider the aspect of your rehearsals, your auditioning, your rehearsals, and all of that as a director. You will need to work with your equipment. You need equipment. What kind of equipment do you need? What kind of accessories do you need? What kind of camera do you need? What kind of microphones do you need? You need your locations, your sets. What kind of sets do you need? What kind of locations do you need? It's very important to consider all of these things. When you have not assessed your location properly, and then you now jump in on the street, you want to go and shoot a movie. You're not aware of your sets, you're not aware of your locations. How are you going to work? It is important for you to work with your location manager and physically assess the kind of locations and sets you are using. You need to work with your set designers, assess all of these issues, and confirm that they are suitable for what you intend to achieve. It is important for you to now consider the kind of post-production facilities you need. What kind of editing systems do you need? What kind of personnel do you need at that space? Are you going to consider music during your post-production? Are you considering effects? What kind of effects are you thinking about? Are you scoring your music? Are you borrowing your music? And if you are borrowing your music, how are you going to go about it? Are you considering the rights of the owner of the music? So these are the issues you must consider as a director at the post-production end. Now, if you're also looking at what is called, we talked briefly the other day about what is called the spine of a movie, the spine of a production. It is a totality of what you need, your sets, your locations, your costumes, your props, the story in itself, your characters. Where one is defective, I mean, it's as terrible as what we call in the theater as the poor theater, my prof. Where one is defective in theater, we consider as this poor theater. So, and therefore, everything must work in harmony and cohesion. That's also what we call the means in scene in movies. The means in scene in movie is all of what the camera eye can see. And what does the camera eye see on set? The camera eye sees your props, your costume, your makeup, your acting, actors and actresses, your sets. All of what the camera eye sees on set is what is considered as the means in scene. In other words, you can call it the spine. The spine, what holds your body, what holds your body together is your cord, your spinal cord is what holds your neck and all of you together. Where your spine is defective, of course you should also understand that your body will question, what's wrong with me? And therefore you cannot have a set. Can we go ahead? Where your spine hello? Yep. Where your spine is defective by way of injury, you should understand that the body cannot work well. The same thing applies in directing. Where an element of your movie, or from your story to the music, to acting, to your sets, to your costumes, and all of that, where one is not properly handled, it's enough to destroy the whole of your movie. For example, sound. When you now shoot your movie, and then you discover that your sound is terrible, it's finished, you're gone. It's unfortunate if you are paid or you have a loan to do this job and your sound fails. It is horrible. But when your sound is good and your actors and actresses are not doing well, the director is not able to tell them what he wants and what the script requires, and therefore they will not be able to interpret the script by way of acting. It's gone. It's gone. And when your sets are not good enough, and they're not suitable enough for your story, it's as good as gone. So these are the kind of issues, directors, you must consider. You want to ask a question? We don't have all the time. Can somebody raise a question? Or can somebody make a contribution if you so wish? Now, there are basically three kind of shots in an entire movie. There are basically three kind of shots in an entire movie. Even if the movie is 2 hours or 3 hours, there are basically and essentially three shots. And the shots are the long shot, the medium shot, and the close-up shots. That's all. You don't need more than that. We don't even have more than that. And somebody want to ask me, how about the medium long shot? Oh, how about the extreme close-up? Or how about that? Yeah, they are all subs under these three that I have mentioned. They're all subs under this. If it's a long shot, it's a long shot. Any other thing becomes a medium of the long. And if it's a medium shot, yes, it's a medium shot. And any other thing is sub of the medium. And it's a close-up. Any other thing outside of that is a sub of the close-up. And these are the kind of shots you need. You must be able to do your establishment as a director. Do your establishment, or what's called a long shot. And after that, you've got to consider the intercuts within this long shot or the establishment shot. It enables you to do a lot of your manipulations within that long shot. It is important for you now to do your medium close-up. They all have their functions. When you've gotten your medium shot, endeavor to also have other kind of subs within the medium. It gives you the liberty, and you are free to manipulate within what you want with the medium. The same thing applies to the close-up or the extreme close-up. It all depends on what you want. So it's important to consider these shots. Your reverse angles are equally very important. Why do you need a reverse angle? How do you go about your reverse angles? When there's an interaction between two characters sitting in an opposite direction, how do you get the reactions of the two characters in a shot? You've got to consider your reverse angles. Your over-the-shoulder shots are very important. But how do you go about them without breaking certain rules? Are we together? You must consider all of these things. How do you apply your reverse angles without breaking the rules? What's a reverse angle? When two characters are chatting, either in a close range or whatever, it is important for me to be able to see the reaction of the opposite character and the reaction of this other character. But there are rules. And if you don't handle them properly, you are going to do what's called breaking of the angle 180 or 360 degree. Do you understand? Do you understand that? That's what we call the axial line, the imaginary line in a movie when you're shooting. You're holding a camera. You don't, there are rules. If you don't follow the rules, you're going to destroy your movie. These are two characters talking. And these two characters that are talking are divided into two. And you don't cross this way if you don't understand the principles of directing and how to use your camera. You break and destroy what's called your axial line or the imaginary line in a movie or the angle 180 or 360 degrees. I hope I'm not trying to go too technical, please. We don't have much time, so if I had time, I would demonstrate the axial line angles here, but we don't have that, and that's why they call it an imaginary line. Because as a human being, I am divided into two without anybody knowing. There's only the camera that knows. And for example, when you're not doing your intercuts, your reaction between an OS of this and an OS of that it is important for you to be conscious of the fact that if your OS is this way, don't go this way to take an OS of this way. It's going to give you a very negative result. When you get back to the film school, please ask questions about that. We don't have all of the time here, but it's very important for you to know this. Ask what is it all about the axial line or the rule of angle 180 degree. Can somebody ask me a question, please? Yes. A question, a contribution, a disagreement, or whatever. Be at liberty to do that.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I want to ask this question because I don't know if it is right or wrong.
Sorry, please. We are all free to interact with him. He's raising a question. Let him be asking me a question. He's asking us a question. So we should be free to interact. Is that right? Go ahead, please, sir.
Okay, I'm asking us a question. I want to, because the big story and the smaller budget, you said something about director working with the budget. I don't know if it is right for a director to work with the budget or a budget to work with a director, in a sense that when a script, during the development stage, when a script is brought, when the director is invited to work with the script, he worked based on his perception about the script and how he used time and different things to tell his story. Every director have different approach to different story. Now, when a director is done working in his own approach, looking at the time and every other thing that will make up that story, and he presents the script, is it right for us to say that the director should go back to his drawing board and work with the budget? Is it the director's business to work with the budget, or the business of the producer to work with what the director has on the table?
Let me attempt to react to what you're saying. You know, an artistic work, interpretation of an artistic work, it's very democratic. It's very democratic in the sense that the way I handle a set and the way I interpret a script may not be the way you want to interpret the same script. Same script. Like giving your wife or a woman X amount of money to prepare dinner, and then you give another woman X amount of money to prepare about the same thing. If you're not very careful, you're not going to get the same taste. So artistry is like that. Why it is important for you that I mentioned budget, you just can't do without it, even for your own personal comfort. That's budget. Even if the producer has asked you to do whatever, fine, and you're willing to do it, but you must consider budget. One, you are working with human beings. You are working with human beings who need to be comfortable before they can deliver what you're asking them to do. Where they're not comfortable, you've got to spoil them. Spoil them. Spoil your own guys. Spoil them. They'll give you the best of it. You can't starve them. No water, no drinks, nothing. No, you've got to. It's important. Even if you're not spending your money in the producer's business, consider it that aspect should be available. Otherwise, you're going to have a wrong set. They're not likely going to give you the best of it. And that's why I have often said that you need to think about how to be friendly on set with the totality of your team. I'm told directors scream and shout and bark like dogs. Why not? I do that. But does it work well? Oftentimes it does. What's wrong with me sharing my bottle of water with my friend on set? What's wrong with it? I mean, for those who smoke, what's wrong with sharing my stick of cigarettes? Why don't you just lighten up the atmosphere and make everything friendly? And make a laugh out of the whole thing and get your job done. That is all about budget. Nobody is saying remove your money and spend money, but you must consider that welfare on set is very important. Welfare on set is very, very important. If I have attempted to just do something about that, so be it. Consider budget, know that it's very important. What do we mean by a field of view? Field of view. What's a field of view? What kind of transitional devices do you have? When you are in your post-production stage, what kind of transitional devices do you need to apply to get your work done? Transitional devices. You have your fades. You have your cuts. You have your mixes. You have your wipes. Intercuts. You need to understand at what point to apply all of this. At what point do you apply your transitional devices? What's the depth of field? What's the field of view? NFI students, what's the depth of field? Can somebody talk from NFI, please? What do you mean by depth of field? What is a field of view? The distance between here and your object or subject, the distance between your lens and your object or subject is either called a field of view or a depth of field. Why do you need that? Is it important to consider that I can go out of focus at the point in time as a director? Is there a reason why you think I should do my focus and deliberately choose to go out of focus? Is it important? Do you need it? It's also important to ensure that you don't go out of focus. Deliberately don't go out of focus. Or deliberately I want to go out of focus because for a purpose. Are we together? I will not speak, I'm not talking out of our NFI. I'm not being arrogant about NFI. Yeah, no, NFI should react to my questions. So, why must I go out of focus? Why? It's deliberate. Am I breaking the rules? What's a pan? What's a tilt? I mean, what kind of camera movements do we have? What's a drone shot? Somebody was talking about we used to climb on top of trees to take a high angle shot. Oh yeah. That's a shot. It's a movement. What's a cut and what an intercut? What's a fade? They are all issues you need to work with. So, that is it for a director. If you're asked to now direct a child actor, for example, how do you go about it? Your set is asking you to now use a child for a role. How do you go about it? How do you audition the child? Where do you get the child? In spite of the security challenges today, how do you get the child to rehearse with the child? How do you call for auditioning? But we must also understand that the world has changed. Technology has enabled us to be able to place calls. And then you see that somebody will say, okay, oh, I want my child to play that role. Home Alone. Have you guys watched it? Home Alone. Yeah. More of children. You can place your adverts however you want it, and you see people will respond. Now, when they have responded, and you've gotten that child to play a particular role for you, for a child you don't know, and the child doesn't know you, how are you going to go about it? You're going to open up friendship with this child, take this child out, spoil the child a little, but don't overpromise. Don't promise that child a bicycle where you know at the end of the day you're not going to buy the bicycle. It's wrong. The child won't give you the best of it. If you can afford whatever, as little as anything, buy for that child. Get the child close to you. Make the child friendly and all of that. And that child will give you the best of it. How do you direct non-professionals, unknown faces in the movie? How do you handle them? It's the same approach of being friendly and running your rehearsals properly, and then you get it done. You need music in your movie, and you're scoring your music. How do you direct your musicologists? How? At what point are you now going to ask for the cue in and the cue out of the music score? You must know all of these things. At what point are you now going to raise the tempo of the music? At what point do you think the music should go low or the music should go off? At what point? What kind of music? Lyricals, vocals, or what? Directors, think. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. We're just using minutes to talk about it. It's a big show. It's a big show. When you're on set with the totality of your team, how do you relate as a director? We tried talking about it not too long ago. As a director, how do you relate with the entirety of your team? The lady with us yesterday here was telling about, I don't like yes men. Neither do I like yes women. I don't like liars. And the fact that I don't like yes men doesn't mean that, oh, even when I said this, no, just be honest. Directors are the ones who bear the brunt of all of this. Ask for opinion. And when the opinion is shared, look at it and make your own independent decision. It's not when you now ask everybody, say, oh yes, the rehearsal, was it good? Yes. That auditioning, was it good? Yes. This shot, is it good? Yes. No, it's not going to work that way. You've got to have your own mind, yes. But seek opinion. Interact with your team. No man knows it all alone. Your set designer, your actors and actresses, your DOP, your cinematographer, they all work. Your gaffer, they all work as a team. And it's very important to consider this. 1, 2 more questions. Contribution? Yes. Is it, I want to go back to you. Is it proper for me to do a pan when I'm directing? For me to do my pan and stop and continue with the pan? Is it right? Does it work well? Is it right for me to do my tilt, either up or down, and I stop and I continue with the tilt? Sorry. Yes, please, ask your question. But I've also asked questions. Huh? You're going to answer this question. Yes, please, ask your questions. Yes.
Sir, I want to speak on, first of all, the first issues which
Please ask your question.
the one of the depth of field.
I'll get back to you, sir.
It's just like a contribution. I watch some movies where depth of field is a beautiful thing for one of the most beautiful thing about director is how they use these shots to tell their story as a director, and camera movements and angles. But we watch some movies where the depth of field is not applied very, very well, and also you talk about the focus issue. Mainly depth of field are used to in some stories by directors to like emphasize on something. Like you said something about being on focus and off focus. Being on focus mainly used by directors when the character is less important or important. For example, when you have a character behind trying to do something to a character in front, then you have a depth of it bringing the character in focus behind and blurring the character in front, telling the audience what the character behind, the action of the character behind. Mainly, directors use depth of field to achieve this mainly, and also the focus and off focus. But you watch some movies, people just apply depth of field for the beauty of applying depth of field and not telling the story using the picture. So you ask yourself, why is this particular scene, why is the depth of field applied in this particular scene? And mainly we get it wrong from there. And you said something about pan, is it right for us to teach, as a director to teach and you stop, or you pan and you stop? I believe when a camera is moving, it moves for a reason. It's because that picture is telling a story about that particular scene, and that is why the movement is taking place. For example, we have a movement of teething. You teach somebody from the head to the toe,
and we see a funny shoe of that person, it's because the director wants to achieve that by telling the audience that, hey, what this man, particular character is wearing is very, very comic. So if the shoe is the focus, why do I have to stop at the belt, then now come down to the shoe when the belt is not important? So for me, it's not important to stop when you know that the particular area where you want to tell that story is where you want to, tilt that camera to. So that's just my own contribution.
Now I am asking you that break the rule of panning and stopping and continue with the pan. If you must do it, which is not allowed, it's unprofessional. If you must do it, and oftentimes it doesn't work, but if you must do it, how do you go about it? If I must do it, how do you go about it? What is a breach? What's a cutaway? What's a breach? What's a cutaway? If I must apply a breach or a cutaway to it in order for me to achieve that pan to the end.
So I think if I don't know if I have the question correctly, but I think when you're panning, the first thing that comes to the mind of the director or the DOP is the rule of photography, yes, which is the 180 rule of photography. And the 360 is not allowed except when you want to apply trick, just like what you're trying to say. So if I'm panning from right to left, and I know that I am in a space where I will break the rule, it is advisable to stop and pick it from the other parts. I don't know if I get it correctly. So it is mainly done.
Sorry, please. We don't have the time again. Please, let's continue with the conversation at NFI. Is that right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To thank you for your time and for listening. The item that we have this morning is a health talk on contemporary health issues. And the resource person that's going to talk on this is Dr. Onyenyechi Nnamdi. We all agree that health is wealth. And without you being healthy, you will not be able to function effectively. So please, at this hour, I want to invite Dr. Onyenyechi Nnamdi. Where is she? Please talk to her. I see her standing outside there. And after her presentation, you may ask one or two questions. You may not want to ask a question directly pertaining to your health. So you can, on the sideline, meet her and discuss one or two issues. Please let us welcome Dr. Onyenyechi Nnamdi, please.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Dr. Onye. I'm the network manager with Sunu Health, which is the HMO managing your organization. And I'm sorry for coming late, first of all. There was some bit of traffic in my area. Okay, so I'll be presenting 3 topics: hypertension, diabetes, and cancer. I'll try and be as brief as possible. Sorry, just hold on, let me open my slide. So I'll be starting with diabetes, and then we'll go to hypertension, and then we'll go to cancer. Now I know all of us here, we have one person that we know that has or that has had one of these diseases. And we know that it's very, very common in our environment. It's something that we take for granted a lot, but I'm sure we've seen the devastating effects of this disease over time. So diabetes, what is diabetes? Diabetes is, just in layman terms, when the body is not able to manage or control the level of glucose in the body. Now, as human beings, we need a source of energy. Energy, meaning that for you to be walking, for you to be doing all these things you're doing, even sitting down and looking and listening, your body depends on glucose to survive. So the glucose is the source of the body's energy. Anything you eat is converted to glucose for the purpose of providing energy for your body's function. Now, what happens in diabetes? In diabetes, first of all, in the body, there's a hormone called the pancreas, responsible for producing insulin. I'm sure you've all heard what insulin is, or you've all heard about insulin before. Now, insulin is what drives, when the glucose comes into the body, when the food is eaten and digested and all that, and broken into molecular forms. So it's broken into these glucose molecules. Now, the glucose molecules are just floating in the blood. They need to get to the organs. By organs, I mean the kidney, liver, eyes, brain, everywhere to function. For it to get into these organs, the insulin has to be released from the pancreas to drive the glucose into the cells. Now, what happens in diabetes is that it's either the pancreas is non-functional or there's pancreatic failure, such that there's no insulin released, and then the sugar will not be able to enter the cell. So the sugar is just floating in the body. Meanwhile, the cells are starving of glucose. That's one. Two, is either the pancreas is not producing enough insulin. In other words, insulin is being produced, but in very minimal quantity. And then there's not enough insulin to drive enough glucose into the organs of the cells for them to perform. And the third thing that can happen is either that the cells of the person is resistant to the insulin, meaning that the insulin is pushing the glucose into the cells, but the cells are not responsive, they are not opening up. So when you see somebody that comes out, maybe, and I'm saying it because maybe you may have seen somebody around you that has been complaining of such. The person finishes eating, and the sugar is just moving around, but it's not getting into the cells. So the organs are not getting the energy they need, and he's still tired. So over time, if it continues like that, it can lead to complications. And you know what happens when blood and sugar mix? I'm explaining this in layman terms. I don't want to start speaking too much medical jargons. Blood and sugar is a good culture medium for bacteria, if you know what I mean. If you put sugar anywhere and put it maybe on something, you see ants and all that crawling around it. So you just imagine it mixing with blood. Blood already has a smell on its own. So in the body, you can imagine all of that going on. And it's just floating around. The sugar is not going anywhere. It's just hanging inside the system. What happens is that it becomes a good culture medium for any form of organism. And before you know it, the person starts having all forms of infection. And diabetic patients are prone to a lot of infections. Now, diabetes can be inherited. And a lot of people say that if you have a family history, you're likely to have it. But at this point, I think it's a myth. At some point, yes, we used to believe that. But right now, if you can live a healthy lifestyle, whether your mother and your father and your whole family were diabetic, if you can live a healthy lifestyle, you're likely not to become diabetic. If you can do the right things, you see that you may be the one that would break that record. So if you think that because your mother or your father is diabetic, so therefore you will have the diabetes, it's a wrong imagination. But theoretically, we just put it that it can be inherited. Now, one of the things that can predispose you to diabetes is being overweight. Being overweight, as in when your body mass index is more than what it should be for your age and for your height, you're likely to be at risk for having this disease. Now, when this happens, when the sugar is floating in the blood and is not able to get into the cells, it disrupts the body's processes. So imagine, for instance, the kidney. The kidney requires glucose to function and is not getting glucose. What happens? The person can have kidney failure. And we see a lot of kidney failure in our environment these days. I know a lot of actors and people in the film and movie industry that have had kidney failure, or died from something that we don't understand. But by the time you look at the history, you look back, you see that there may be some problems that that the person may have incurred that he wouldn't even know about. And most times when you don't pay attention to your body, you miss it. Now, what are the symptoms? First of all, when it happens, it may come as it may be a very vague illness. The person may be complaining of boils on the body. I'm having boils everywhere. For women, they may be complaining of continuous vaginal infection, discharge. Every time you treat them, they'll come back with the same discharge, Just illnesses everywhere. They're having pain when urinating every time. And it's not something that happens once, it's something that keeps recurring. You treat, it comes back, you treat, it comes back. So such people, you suspect that there may be diabetes. Passing large amounts of urine. Somebody waking up in the night to pee like 5 or 6 or 7 times in the night. There's a difference. During cold weather like this, when the weather is cold, the body has the ability to pass a lot of urine, especially if you drink a lot of water. During the cold weather, all the vessels dilate, and then the person is bound to pass a lot of urine. But in diabetes, it's different because at every instance, the person just wants to pee. You know that the urinary tract has been affected, and also the kidneys also may have been affected. Dry mouth. Somebody's mouth is always dry. The person drinks water a lot. Now, it's also different. If during dry season, you're likely to drink a lot of water, that one is different. But in diabetes, even during whether dry or whether cold or whatever the period of the year, you're drinking water excessively. Lack of energy, like I said, you finish eating food, one very big meal, but after eating, you're still feeling tired. There's something wrong. Weight loss. It's ironical, but you see diabetic patients, they are losing weight, and this happens when it's getting to the bad, or when the person is deteriorating without even knowing. Blood vision, that's when the eyes has been affected. Like I said, because the sugar is not getting to every part of your body, even your eyes, your nose, your brain, they require glucose to function. So if this glucose is not getting there, they'll start having problems. Fruity smell, when somebody's breath, you notice anybody around you and you notice that their breath is always smelling of maybe something fruity, orange. That's one, they call it ketone breath. Some people will say, this person's mouth smells nice. So the person is always it's not smelling nice. There's something wrong. It's better for your mouth to have an odor than to have that fruity smell. Because if it has that fruity smell, then there must be a problem. So if you know anybody around you that you're saying, this person they brush well, and his mouth is smelling fresh, better suspect. Then thrush and cystitis. Thrush, like I said, thrush means for females, vaginal discharge. When they're always discharging, they treat, they come back, you suspect that they're having there's a problem. Now, there are tests they do. Of course, we know the fasting blood sugar, random blood sugar. Those are tests they use to diagnose diabetes. Urine test, oral glucose tolerance test. Sugar test, basically, they use to diagnose. Now, what do you do? If we diagnose you of diabetes, we don't just stop there. We want to know what is causing this diabetes. Diabetes can be, it can be primary, like I said, it can be genetic, or it can be something that you acquire. And by acquiring it is mostly by the things you do, by the kind of life you live. If you're obese, if you have a sedentary lifestyle, with time, you're likely to develop diabetes. But for people that have genetic factors, like people that are born, for instance, without a pancreas, or people that are born with a failed pancreas from the beginning, you see, those ones happen to children. They call it type 1 diabetes. Their pancreas cannot even produce at all. So they were born with, an inefficient pancreas. So from a young age, they're already receiving insulin injections. But the secondary one is the one that you acquire when you're an adult, because of lifestyle and all of that we've talked about. Then you do blood pressure test. Diabetes and blood pressure are related. So whenever you see a diabetic patient, you want to know whether the person is hypertensive. Okay? Eye test also to know whether the person's eye has been affected. All this is basically to know whether there's been complications or complications have set in. Now, what kind of food do you eat if you find out that you're diabetic? If you notice diabetic patients, they eat, their meals are quite kind of strict. So you have to eat things that will not, there's already sugar in your system. Your system doesn't need more. So you need to eat things that will not cause the sugar to build up more. And also start taking medication There are different medications that will work along all these different parts I spoke about. There are some that will work on the pancreas. For instance, if the pancreas is not producing enough, it will make the pancreas bring out the one that is not producing. If the pancreas has failed completely, you just give the drug, and the drug would push the glucose into the cells. And if the cells are resistant, there are drugs that can open up the cells to accept the glucose, you know. So, now, another thing people we have to know is that when you're taking drugs, if you know anybody that is diabetic that is taking drugs, and the person is always complaining that the sugar is not working, or sorry, the sugar level is not being controlled, or the drugs are not working, you have to check what the person is eating. Because the fact that they are giving you drugs for diabetes doesn't mean the drug will take care of everything. Oh, let me just take the drug and go and continue what I was doing. If you are taking anti-diabetic medication and you're still eating the way you were eating, the food will overwhelm the effect of the drugs. And it will be as if the drug is not doing anything. The drug is not supposed to perform magic. It's supposed to help. So you are also supposed to help yourself to help the drug. So you increase your fiber intake. You avoid fried foods completely. I'm talking of the food now you eat. You try and eat more of fish and poultry, which contains more of protein. Protein has a lesser capacity to produce glucose than carbohydrates. Carbohydrates will produce a lot of glucose, while protein will produce less glucose. Fruits and vegetables, also important. Also, physical activity. You have to be physically active when you notice that you have any of these metabolic diseases, because it will help you lose weight. It will help your body cells open up to accept this glucose even more. So if you want to run, if you want to jog, whatever the case may be, however you prefer to exercise, is also very important. Okay, so the long-term complications. Diabetes has its long-term complications, especially for those that are poorly controlled. They can become blind. You see a lot of people that complain of glaucoma. From glaucoma, it will lead to blindness, especially when not treated properly. They can have heart problems, kidney problems, foot ulcer. I'm sure there are some people that have heard of foot ulcer, which can be very, very, gory sometimes, and sometimes it may even lead to amputation. Sexual difficulties. Some people, they'll say they are not able to achieve libido, they are not able to satisfy their partners and all that. These are the issues associated with diabetes. Depression, foot conditions. I'm sure you've heard of neuropathy. Hear somebody saying that the person, you can pour hot water on the person's leg and the person will not even know that something poured on the leg. You can even pour hot oil. The person will not feel it. It means that the nerves have been damaged because no glucose is getting to them, so they are not being fed. So at the end of the day, they start having ulcer and diseases everywhere. Stroke can also happen in somebody with diabetes. So in conclusion, it's just to open your mind, have a broader scope of what diabetes is all about. If you have anybody around you that you suspect that, like from all the things I've spoken about, may have these symptoms, then you need to tell the person to consult a doctor. Whether it's in the film, it may be in the film industry, it may just be around you, like family members and all that, because it's a major killer now in our environment. If you have any questions, we can talk about it after the presentation. Thank you very much. So the next topic I'll be going to is hypertension, or you call it high blood pressure. Now, what is high blood pressure? Let me also explain it the way you understand. The heart is responsible for pumping blood to every part of the body. Just like, glucose is supposed to go around the body to produce energy, the heart is supposed to pump blood to all the areas of the body to enable it function as well, because you need blood to function. So what happens in hypertension is, look at it this way. You have, let's use all the vessels in your body. I'm talking of your arteries and your veins. The arteries, basically, in your body. They are like tubes. They are like tubes. And they are expansible, as in they are rubbery in nature. Let me put it that way. They expand and they contract, just like rubber band. That's how the arteries in your body are supposed to be. A healthy artery is supposed to be. So when the when the heart pumps blood to these vessels so that it will take it to other parts of the body, the vessels expand. If the pressure is too much, the vessels will expand so that it will accommodate the blood. You understand? If the pressure is low, it will contract. That's how it maintains blood pressure, so So that's why when they're checking your blood pressure, they want to see, they're basically checking the pressure in the arteries to know how the blood is pumping into those arteries. Now in hypertension, what happens is that either the arteries have been damaged in the sense that the force of blood that has been passing through those arteries has been too high for a long time. And then before you know it, the arteries now become turgid. They become hard. They no longer expand. So if you touch, if you feel somebody's artery or vein that is hypertensive, it's almost like it's very hard. You know, it's almost like this wire. You know, compared to some of us that have, or would I say all of us that have normal vessels, you know, your own is still soft and stretchy and all that. So because of that, their arteries are no longer able to take in the pressure, and before you know it, they become hypertensive. Now, sorry, just hold on. So, have it. Eat healthy, exercise, do the right things, don't get stressed. You will see that you won't have it. You may be the one that will break the record. So, but then again, we say it's genetic, and then it can be secondary. Secondary meaning that there are diseases you have that can make your blood pressure rise. In other words, if those diseases are treated, the blood pressure will go back to normal. And the diseases include kidney diseases, you know, diseases of the blood vessels, endocrine diseases. When the thyroid gland is affected, your blood pressure is likely to go high. Now, there are risk factors that can cause hypertension. Obesity. Obesity is one of the major causes of any disease, generally. Even cancer. If you're obese, you're prone to having cancer. Tobacco smoking. Tobacco has the tendency to harden those vessels we are talking about. The vessels will not be able to expand anymore. So the pressure will just be high. And for you to diagnose a patient of hypertension, if you're diagnosing a patient of hypertension for the first time, you should know that this hypertension has built up for the past 4 to 5 years. The hypertension doesn't just happen like that. It's something that has been building up for a while. So if somebody comes and is hypertensive for the first time and you check, as in the first time you check is hypertensive, you know that it has been building up for the past 4 to 5 years. And that's why it's a silent killer, because it doesn't give any sign. High salt intake. When you take a lot of salt, it helps your body will retain water. And when your body retains water, it increases the pressure in the vessels, especially if the vessels are already damaged. That's why they advise hypertensive patients not to take salt or to reduce the intake of salt as much as possible. Alcoholism, it also increases blood pressure. And then sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise. These are the modifiable factors. These things, if you change them, you can go back to normal, especially if you work on them early. But the non-modifiable factors, age. As you grow older, normally, your blood pressure is likely to rise. But like I said, if I check an 80-year-old man's BP and I'm seeing 145/90 or 145/100, I will not be worried. But if I'm seeing that in somebody that is 40 or 35, I'll be worried. Race. Hypertension is more common in black race than in Caucasians. Also, family history, like I said, when your first degree relative has it, you're likely to have it, but it all depends. Now, complications of hypertension. Hypertension is a silent killer, and most times when you diagnose, especially for the stubborn ones, there are a lot of stubborn people that have hypertension but refuse to accept it. When they are diagnosed with the complication, and by that time it may be late. So some of them come with stroke, heart attack, heart failure, kidney damage, even vision loss, because of the vessels there are being affected. Let me give you a story of one patient. I was in a gathering like this in one organization, and then we checked, we did a high blood pressure check, yes. And then we checked the woman's BP, and it was 250/100 and something. And the woman was just, I think she was 35 or 36, not married. So immediately I checked, I told her, Madam, please, I'm very uncomfortable with this BP. Please, you need to, in fact, as I'm talking to you now, we need to do something about it. He said, no, she's okay. God forbid, that she has never had BP. Her father did not have, mother did not have, everybody did not have. That why would she? That no, that maybe because she climbed, they always give excuse. I said, Madam, this is too much for climbing up the staircase to cause your BP to rise like this. We kept on arguing until I was able to convince her. She said, that when she finishes eating, let her eat first. When she finishes eating, she'll go to hospital. I said, no problem. It wasn't even up to 30 minutes from the time we spoke. The gate man ran into in fact, he was one that disrupted the gathering. And then came and said, somebody just collapsed. I said, collapsed. So I left everything I was doing. I went to go and meet. Lo and behold, it was that woman. And she was you could tell she had a stroke. 36. Stroke. So at that point, we just had to, first of all, do basic resuscitative measures and all that. You could see that one part of her body was already paralyzed, and she was struggling with the other side. So, but by the time they could rush her to Metama Hospital here, she just died. So somebody you meet from just now to 30 minutes, and then you're telling another story. So I think that was one of the things that opened the eyes of everybody in that conference, that everybody was now, hey, hypertension, oh God, let me check, that kind of thing. So it doesn't need to get to that point before you realize that it's a serious thing. It doesn't give any sign. And she felt that she was healthy. I don't blame her, but you need to pay attention to your body. So it's very, very important. The complications is what we use to diagnose most times, which is a bad thing. But I think we are improving with time. Now, management. We've talked about monitoring. For you to be able to diagnose whether you're hypertensive, you don't need to wait for your doctor to come and do BP for you. Buy this equipment, and keep in your house and be checking your BP every morning. You can buy for your parents, buy for people around you. It's very important because it will be a pointer for you. A diagnosis. After checking, you want to diagnose whether there's anything causing the hypertension, or whether it's a primary hypertension. Then you confirm it. When you've confirmed, it's time to treat. You treat with lifestyle modification. There are some people that when you see them, the first hypertensive people here, some people, when they diagnose that they're hypertensive and they go to the hospital, give them drug, do test, and they go home, they will use that drug for the next 10 years. They won't come back to say, oh, doctor, after 6 months, okay, let's check me again. Even if there's nothing wrong with you, just check. Because you may check and find out something, and they'll say, okay, you know what, stop this drug. We'll put this one in place of this drug. No, don't take this one again. It's like this one is causing problem. You may not even know the problem. You may not even know it's causing any problem for you. It's only when you now take it for 5 years, then one day you now come, I'm taking the drug, but my eye, I can't see. Something is wrong. And when last you go to hospital? It's almost 5 years. You've not been following up. Follow-up is very important. Okay? So lifestyle modification, we've talked about exercising, very important. Eating a healthy diet. Incorporate more fruits and vegetables in your diet. Reduce carbohydrate. Let me just say, there's a secret I need to tell you people. I don't know that it's a secret, but it's something that I think everybody from the age of 35 should know. From the age of 35 upwards, I use 35, some people use 40, but I choose to use 35 because I see that the lifespan is reducing every day. From the age of 35 upwards, your body can no longer metabolize some things as good as it used to before. So if you're somebody that eats cake, egg roll, apple, swallow, what do you call them, gari, just name all those kind of pizza, shawarma, your body can no longer metabolize. That's just the truth. Metabolizing means it cannot break it down. You can give a child shawarma, he will eat it. Immediately, his body is breaking it down. He's going to toilet. Everything is normal. But when you get to that age, you need to be careful what you eat, because when your body doesn't metabolize it well, it starts accumulating. It starts accumulating and starts causing problems, and you won't even know. But you think you're enjoying the life. Alcohol, your body can no longer metabolize. As your body grows, it also, all your organs, they age. Your liver at 40 is not what it was at 15 years or 12 years. So you have to know that your body is aging every day. So as it's aging, you have to be cautious of the kind of things you introduce into it, because it can no longer accept it. It's basically struggling to metabolize. If your liver is struggling to metabolize something, one day it will just be tired and give up. Sorry, the question is for when I finish the whole presentation. You can now ask. Cancer is one disease that has come to terrorize. Nigerians, we like living very healthy. We don't like trouble. We just like to enjoy life. And all of a sudden, one stupid disease just came and started killing people. It's very painful, And then the worst part is that people don't understand it. Every day there's research. They are researching here and research. And it's very painful because imagine your liver growing, every part of your body plays it. It's a normal, God created us that way. But, how can someone be as big as this, but not in the person's family? Like as if it was an issue of money. I had to give him money to go and do the check himself. And then he called me back that they had to biopsy him. And I said, okay, no problem, I'll help you with biopsy. They did the biopsy. After some time, he came with a lump, an unusual lump or mass anywhere on the body. Whether it's because they have benign and malignant. There are two types of swellings. You have the benign one, the one that is not harmful. They can remove that one and person can continue to live. And you have the one that is malignant. The malignant one is actually the one that is deadly. So when you see anybody with a lump, the person needs to confirm that this is not cancer or this is cancer. You know. So in there are 553,400 people died from cancer. People died from cancer so 1 out of every 4 persons die of cancer. So that means it's actually coming in and it has taken over in a lot of ways. And the key to cancer or to treatment of cancer is early detection. We thank God now that there's improvements in technology and drugs. So a lot of things will help when it comes to treatment of cancer. Now, I've said that cancers are just a result of cells growing uncontrollably. They just keep growing and growing. They are not dying, you know, and they can go and encroach into another organ. You can imagine the breast cancer growing to encroach into the liver or the pituitary gland. All those glands responsible for producing hormones. Those are the ones that somebody has had cancer. The cells would have multiplied so many times. It keeps multiplying and multiplying. So for you to diagnose or detect that, oh, this person has a cancer, it may have gone far, you know. So, but early detection, like I said, if you're somebody that is cautious of your health and you say every 6 months, I'll go for a breast scan, or every 1 year, I will if you're at the age of 35 and below, you do a breast scan. I've seen a girl of 14 years have breast cancer. I've seen a girl of 15 years have ovarian cancer. So those ones, they think they are safe. But if you make it a lifestyle to always check your health from time to time, you will diagnose it early. Now you have X-rays, you have CT scans, MRI scans, PET scans. These are the high falutin tests they do to know further, as in how far the cancer has spread, as if it has spread. Then there are different types of cancer treatment, ranging from surgery. Surgery, they call it debulking. You have to remove, for instance, a breast that has, a breast cancer that has metastasized. You have to remove it. You give the person drugs, the breast will shrink a bit, and you have to remove everything. But most times, by that time, it's usually late. Radiation therapy, which is something that I think they have really tried in this country for. We have one in National Hospital now that a lot of people are using and it's helping them. Chemotherapy, yes. Chemotherapy, most times it's good, but it has damaging effects too to the normal cells of the body. And most times, people that have cancer, if they are not treated properly in a good environment with the right drugs, it's actually the side effects of the drugs that will kill them, not even the cancer itself. Immunotherapy, hormone therapy, gene therapy. These are the things they use these days for treatment of cancer. Now, how do you prevent cancer? As we speak, there are too many theories surrounding this disease called cancer. There are a lot of things, a lot of hormonal, genetic deficiencies, chromosomal abnormalities. A lot of things have been linked to cancer, but there's no particular thing that you say, oh, this thing is responsible for cancer. And that is why tobacco, you protect yourself from the sun. The only sun you need in your life is the early morning sun. That's why some people wake up in the morning to jog, so that as they are trying to lose weight, they're also receiving early morning sun. After that, you try and protect yourself, because the ozone layer, like we all know, has been affected, and somehow those harmful rays are getting to us already. So we need to protect ourselves from being exposed to this sun as much as possible. Eat and maintain a healthy diet. There are a lot of food that I've heard that cause cancer. Teen food, canned food, this food, that food. But at the end of the day, you know what is right and you know what is wrong. Stay away from all these things. Eat what is healthy. Eat what is natural. Maintain a healthy weight and be physically active. Very, very important. Practice safe sex. You know, sexually transmitted diseases too can cause cancer. Cervical cancer especially for the women, and then scrotal cancer for the men. So when your sex is something that should be safe when done, and avoid risky behaviors. Get immunized. Hepatitis B virus, human papilloma virus vaccines, they are all available. So at some point, you need to get these vaccines to protect yourself from having the complications of these diseases. Know your family history. If you've had a history of cancer in your family, because cancer is one disease too that has a strong family history. If there's a strong family history, you have to watch it. If there's somebody in your family that has died in the past from breast cancer, and maybe your four or more people, or 3 or more people you know in your family that have had it, you need to be careful. So, thank you very much. If there are questions you need to ask, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Good morning. My question is this. Sometimes we see our skins as we are reacting to soap, cream, weather, water, and stuff. And for the first time, I'm hearing of skin cancer. I don't know if you can help me, with some symptoms of skin cancer.
Okay. All right. Let me first of all say that people that are prone, there are people that are prone to skin cancer. Albinos. If you know albinos, they are the ones, that's why they tell them to stay away from the sun. When they expose themselves too much. Most of the people that have seen with skin cancer are albinos, actually. But it's not like we that have melanin. Melanin is actually very protective. And that's why I say when you're black, be happy. White people don't have melanin. That's why they have cancer up and down. So albinos are the ones that are prone to having cancer. But then again, the sun can cause enough damage for a black person. No matter how black you are, there are chances that you can have cancer. It's rare. It's not something I've seen in too many people or too many places. But the 3 or 4 patients with skin cancer that I've seen in this country are albinos. But then again, protect yourself from, and there are no symptoms. Like I said, cancer, you can just see something like a birthmark that will just appear. You just be conscious of your body. That's all I can say. You can just see anything like you say is a birthmark or something, and you feel it's something to be ignored. But by the time you see it growing, you see it widening on your skin, it should be a cause for alarm. You should be like, okay, let me go and see a dermatologist first. If they scrape it, they will do a histology. They will scrape it and do a biopsy for you, do a histology. If it's non-cancerous, then you're fine. But if it's cancerous, then you know that at least you detected it early. So treatment can start early. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. My question is on hypertension.
Okay.
I have this cousin of mine that is 14 years and
14?
Yes. And her mom, they went to the hospital for a check because she has been complaining of internal heat and stuff like that. And the doctor said she is hypertensive. So I don't know, like, for somebody her own age, what is the cause?
Is it the girl of 14 years?
Yes.
And they say she's hypertensive?
Yes.
Like I said, hypertensive can be, is her mother hypertensive, her parents, or anybody?
No.
So hypertension can either be, like I said, it can be primary, it can be secondary. They need to check your kidney. If you have kidney failure, you can have hypertension. And these days, you see a lot of young people having kidney failure. If you have liver problems, you can be hypertensive. If you have vessel obstruction, you can be hypertensive. So they need to do a robust test on her, especially checking all these organs. There are organs that when they are affected, whether you are a child or whether you are an adult, you get hypertension. But if they treat the disease, the hypertension will disappear.
Okay, so the other question is, can depression aid up hypertension, like be a cause to it or something?
Depression is not directly. Depression is just a form of stress. If you treat depression, it will go. If you treat depression and if you are having hypertension, I don't really think hypertension would come about as a result of depression directly, no. There may be something else that will lead to the hypertension. But if for any case somebody has hypertension, it will be stress and not the depression. But when these things are treated, like I said, if you can overcome stress, treat your depression, the hypertension will ease off.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm actually also a health consultant, and please, I just want you to help me with this. There's still actually chubby and very fat. Okay. She's very fat, and then she wanted some of my products, so I recommended some products for her. But she's very, very fat, and then she gets very busy at work, and now I actually went through, she came for a general checkup and I went through her. For the blood pressure, that it's actually 185, and then for the movement of the blood, it went to that's 98, and then for the pulse rate, it went to 102, And then also for her sugar level test, that was actually her random sugar. It was actually also ranging from 11.0, which shows it actually high. And then she's this type of person that she don't want to stop taking all these caffeines and the rest because of her work and the rest. She says it keeps her going and the rest, but she's very fat. And then she's actually very fat, so it's one of the things that made most of her results very, very high. And then she just needed just the product to treat this thing. And then I recommended for her because of the money actually. And then she went for a month. And when she tried it, it actually came down a little, which not actually good. It's not actually good, but a little. And then she don't want to go out for exercise and the rest. If you are to be in my shoes, like what other recommendation will you go for her to get better? Thank you.
Let me answer him first. So I will not forget. Okay. Okay, let me say one thing before I'll be very brief. You can't. How do I tell my patient? You can't be talking of medication all the time or something to resolve your problem. When it's just like there's something they say when you put a tap on and the tap is on, but you think the solution is to be cleaning the water. Even if you clean the water is still rushing from the tap and it will still be, messing up the whole place. The problem with her is her obesity. So no matter what you give her, if that obesity is still, thank you. No matter what you give her, because the obesity is still there, her symptoms will still be there. The hypertension will still be there. It's not just about coming to doctor to sit down and complain from morning till night. There needs to be an effort on the patient's angle. No doctor can save your life. A doctor only recommends, tells you what he has learned in school, what they've seen in the theater, and what they've seen practically. But no doctor is going to tell you, don't worry, come, I'll save your life. They can give you drugs to help you reduce the BP. Like you said, you give her something. It will reduce it a bit. But if she cannot make that conscious effort of trying to lose weight and live a healthy lifestyle and avoid these things, like I said, it's not easy. You can't tell somebody that's been drinking alcohol for 20 years that feels he's all right to all of a sudden stop it. He will quarrel with you. But like I said, it's a process, and it takes will and determination. So the person has to take it upon his or herself that, see, even if it's from now till next year, whatever, give yourself a target. Let me lose 5 kg. Let me lose 10 kg. Before you know it, is a process, and the person is making progress. The person will be having all these issues. In fact, the person will stop seeing you. Only when you call the person one day, say, I've checked my BP, it's okay, I'm now okay. We'll now be seeing you once in a while. So let her stop depending on what you give her, what she will put in her mouth. She has put enough things in her mouth already. She needs to start cutting down. Very important.
Hello, everyone. I have 2 questions. The first one is concerning hypertension. Okay, my mother is hypertensive. Yes. She's on thiaprine. That's the drug she is on. Thiaprine. But then sometimes she complains of the way she says it. Let me speak it in Igbo. The way she says it, say, "Isim neme." That's how she says it. That's my head is. I don't know how to explain that in English. But then, so I don't understand. She's on the drug. She's taking the drug on a daily basis. But then how come things like that are happening? Does it mean she has been on that drug for too long? Does she need to change the drug? Does she need to go back for a test? Like you mentioned. That's the first one. And the second one is concerning this cancer. There is a funny thing we see on TV, and I'd like to know the basis for that. Most times when you hear of a patient that has cancer on TV, next thing you know, the patient has molo. It's clean cut.
Has what?
Clean molo.
What's molo?
Yeah, I need to call it molo so you understand. Okay. So the person his head is completely bald. You're completely bald. I don't know, does any kind of cancer you have cause baldness? Yes, I know that some cancers make you lose your hair, but actually skin cancers that affect the hair, they make you lose your hair. But then does all kind of cancers make you lose your hair? Is it in film, for example, we are filmmakers. When we are depicting that, does it make any sense to do that? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I don't know how often your mom has been going for checkups. You know, that's why I mentioned that some people, when they go to the hospital and they give them drugs, whether diabetic, hypertensive, whatever the case may be, when they give them the drug, you won't see them again. The next time they'll be coming to you, they'll be coming with stroke, God forbid, or heart problem. So even if the doctor gives you the drug today, make it a habit to go back. Even if it's after 3 months, doctor, I've been taking these drugs. Is there any symptom, any other problem? Are you noticing anything? No, maybe I have small leg pain. When did it start? If I can give you drug for it, it will go. If they suspect it's something bigger, and we'll say, okay, I think you should stop this drug, or reduce the dose, or change it entirely. I have a dad too who is diabetic and hypertensive, and he's been diabetic and hypertensive for the past 26 years. Most of his mates have all passed, and I'm not saying it because I'm proud, but because he has somebody around to help him monitor and to do the right thing. But you don't need to have a doctor in your house for your parents to live long. All they need to do is when they after some time, even if you make it 6 months, after 6 months, you don't need to go there every time. Go and recheck your drugs. Let the doctor make sure that everything is in check. There are some drugs that she may be taking. I really don't know how many drugs she's taking. Maybe they need to add something to what she's already on and then do like some lifestyle modification for her. Then she will get better. Then for the cancer, hair loss in cancer is mostly associated with the drugs, chemotherapy. Mostly. Because by the time you start taking, my mom, may her soul rest in peace, she passed from cancer too. So she took, at the time when she was taking the medication, even as a doctor I knew, but you don't know until it happens. You always feel that you know until it happens. So when she started losing her hair, I said, Jesus Christ, look at what's going on. Just pull it out and it keeps coming out. So at some point, because they don't want to keep losing their hair like that, some of them will just go and shave it. Because it's kind of embarrassing to them when they are combing their hair and it's falling off and all that. So the hair loss is mostly due to chemotherapy. Chemotherapy, immunotherapy, radiotherapy, they can cause hair loss in cancer patients.
I have a question, but I first of all want to thank you for your good presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I'm calling it good because I have a lot to take home from your presentation. While you were talking about high blood pressure, I listened attentively. When you finished, I was thinking you also talk about low blood pressure, because I know so many people are dying from low blood pressure, and nobody is talking about it. So what do you have to say? Because some people are afraid of low blood pressure also, not just high blood pressure. Thank you.
Okay, low blood pressure. Well, it's not something that is too familiar, or will I say common in the environment, but there are a lot of factors associated with low blood pressure. And I don't even call it low blood pressure. I just feel like your BP has reduced. Most times, okay, let me mention the physiological causes first. When women are on their period, when you lose fluid in form of blood, in form of water, check your BP, you see that is low, it has reduced. Also, during cold seasons, during the rainy season and in the winter, for instance, by this time in the US now, or any of these countries where they usually experience winter, if you check, you see that most of their BPs have reduced, because the weather has a lot to also play in blood pressure. Then, another thing that pathological factors that can cause low blood pressure, shock. Some people may be going into shock. They may be losing blood in one way or the other, but they will not know. Maybe I know a patient that had an accident maybe a month before the time I saw him. And he just kept getting tired. So I felt, from the complaints he was giving, I felt, okay, maybe if I check his BP, maybe I will see high BP. But when we checked, his BP was like 80-40 or 80-something. That was when we had to rush him to the hospital. And then, by the time they did a CT scan for him, they recommended a CT scan. They were just giving him fluids, in the hospital. And then he went to do a CT scan at echo scan also at the time. And then when they checked, they saw that he was actually bleeding from his liver. He was having liver, was it liver? Yeah, he was bleeding from the liver. just, the bleeding was it was every day, it was just coming out small, 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 small. But he didn't know. And this was an accident that happened over a month ago. So at that point, they had to realize that they had to open him up. Because even the blood had formed like a ball somewhere. They had to remove the blood, attack the bleeding, and that was how he was okay. So when you lose without knowing, you may be losing without knowing, somehow, your blood pressure will be going low. When you have menstrual issues, especially during your menses, you have heavy flow. For women, heavy flow can cause your BP to drop. And that's why when women, people with heavy flow, after their menses, they always tell them to try and up their blood levels. Because if they continue like that for a long time, they may enter shock because of low blood pressure.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I have 2 to 3 questions, and they are very short. Very short. Yes, very short. Number 1, who is qualified to be a health consultant? Okay. Number 2, you talk of some measures to be taken to overcome all this high blood pressure, exercise in particular. How can you recommend sex?
Sex?
Yes, because it's a very huge exercise. You can imagine even during the cold, if you have a sex, the kind of sweat that will be coming out from you. So how do you recommend sex as another approach of exercise to overcome the stress? Then thirdly, Doctor, thank you very much. As you took time to explain to us, health is wealth, we are grateful to you. But if you go to graveyard, you discover that out of 100 corpses brought daily, 80 are men. What happened? I believed women are the most cause of men death on earth. Thank you very much for this.
This question hard. I don't know how to answer anyone. Okay, generally, they'll just give birth to you, just be growing, you get to one age and no. Everything you do during your period from birth till you die has a role to play in your death in one way or the other, except you die by accident. And accident, nobody plans it. But if it's something that is health related, you will see that the men usually die more than women. And why do we have this as the case? Because a lot of these risk factors are more in men than women. I don't think you go to a beer parlor in the night and see a woman drinking beer. Even if you see a woman, you see just a few women, but the men will be more. If you see any man there is with one of his small babes, and the babe will just take maybe juice or something, but the man can take 5 bottles of beer or 6 bottles of beer, and he will go home and will think he has made it for the night. The same thing with smoking. And generally, men are stubborn. Most of my stubborn patients are men. Sometimes I quarrel with them. I don't know why. You quarrel, they are ready to prove a point. At the end of the day, they realize that, see you, doctor, I'm sorry, in fact, let me just do it. But the women, when you sit down and talk to a woman, in fact, she'll be the one calling you. Most of my male patients, if they are calling me to toast me. They're not calling me to ask me any better question. I'll be thinking they're calling me to ask me, oh, doctor, in fact, this drug. But the women, they'll call me, they can even call me in the night and be asking, God, doctor, see, I had this problem. You will not help. They will even tell them, come, okay, I know what to do. Man, they don't have that time. You understand? So I think they sound funny, but if you want to look at it from, depending on the angle you're looking at it from. But from what I know, men are stubborn people. They are stubborn in nature. It takes a lot to convince them to do the right thing. They feel they are always right. But women, I don't think they are like that. They can do that maybe in their homes when a woman wants to take authority over maybe her household. But when it comes to her health, the woman takes it very, very seriously. If you go out and see people jogging on the road in the morning, you see that a lot of them are women. More of them are women than men. If you see any man exercising in the morning, maybe the doctor has told him, come. If you don't continue like this, you just collapse one day. You will now wake up and start jogging. just to prove a point. You understand? So I think that would be the reason. But it's a global, it's actually a global statistics. It's not just Nigeria. Everywhere in the world is like that. Then sex as an exercise. Sex is an exercise. It's not even, it doesn't have to be recommended. You know, it all depends on the person you are now having the sex with. If you're having sex, what do you call it? Carelessly. I won't recommend anybody to go and start having sex carelessly because that's the only type of exercise you know. If you want to exercise, go and jog. You don't need to have sex. It's not by force. If you have a wife in the house, of course, I mean, she's your wife, so you know how to, have that conversation with her and all that. But as a recommendation, it's not something that it has to be recommended. Something that has to be done as a man. But the only thing I will not advise a man to do is to have careless or go around having sex because it's a form of exercise. You understand? Of course, it's a very good exercise. Very good. And no doubt, I'm serious, it's a very good exercise. Some people actually come with this complaint, that they don't have time to, that their work starts in the morning and they come back in the night, and the only thing they can do is sex. I said, well, yes, I know that it may be sex only, but I tell people in workplaces that even if it's during your break time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, if you have a staircase in your office, you can do it 2, 3, 4 times and sweat. Let your heart pump. When you do it, you know that at least you've done something today. You go back to your office. You can also add that to the sex because the sex may not be enough. You understand? Then, who is qualified to be a health consultant? Well, health consultant, I just started hearing that one like maybe some few years ago. But I know that if there are people that are trained, on health issues, just in case a doctor cannot be available at the moment. They can put you through some things. But there's always a need for referral. If they don't understand what is being told to them or what they are being told by a patient or by anybody, they should call the doctor and say, doctor, see, this patient is having this. I think she needs to come and see you. Or I think she needs your help or your advice. But I think there are people that are trained for that purpose. But ideally, if you have medical issues, the best and the utmost person to relate with is your doctor. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you very much. Okay, one more question.
Yes, when you talked about diabetes, you stressed on the function of the pancreas. Pancreas.
Okay, pancreas.
Yes, and what can we do to make it efficient, to work efficiently?
The pancreatic problem comes, for most people, as those that have type 1 diabetes due to pancreatic failure. It's almost like a genetic problem. I don't even want to call it genetic. It almost happens from birth. So they diagnose, you can see a child of 5 years or 6 years, they are diagnosing him of diabetes. I know a couple of children like that, So at that point, the pancreas, you can't stimulate a pancreas that has failed from birth. But for an adult that develops type 2 diabetes at adult age, for the pancreas to have collapsed, it means that, the right type of lifestyle has not been practiced for a long time. It's just like putting your heart under pressure. As a hypertensive patient, your heart is going through pressure to pump blood and all that. At some point, you start having heart failure. The same thing happens to the pancreas. So there's nothing to use and make the pancreas effective, really. Well, there are new technologies now. In fact, I read a journal of something like that recently. There are drugs that, it's not really a drug, but it's like a procedure that they do to make the pancreas, secrete insulin. But these are things that are still under trial. They are not out there yet. There's a lot of practice or whatever research to be done on it before they will finally say, okay, this is finally the cure for diabetes. But right now, there's nothing like that. If you have diabetes and it's diagnosed, you have to do the needful. Lifestyle modification and drugs. And exercise as well. All right. Any other questions?
Diabetes, is it acquired or hereditary or both?
For both. There's acquired and that's what I'm saying, there's type 1 diabetes and there's type 2. Type 1 diabetes is hereditary. But type 2 is the one that is acquired. Acquired in the sense that, like you have the risk of having it. You actually, for instance, somebody is obese. Anybody that is obese and has diabetes acquired it from obesity. That's the best language to use and describe it. Acquired in the sense that it wouldn't have happened to you, but it happened to you because you were not living the right kind of lifestyle, or you were not eating the right kind of foods. But hereditary is for those juvenile diabetes. They call it juvenile diabetes because it happens to young children. Those ones, there could be some problems during development and the pancreas fails, or if the mother had or the father had that kind of problem as a child, the child will also have that kind of problem, and for the rest of his life, will be on insulin. All right, thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, I just want to say one or two things, Doctor, before you step aside. Thank you for the robust presentation this morning. But what I want to ask you is, after this presentation, is there any way that we can meet you that is on the sideline? That is, let's say somebody from, let's say one of the participants want to see you to discuss how they can link up with your organization.
Of course. I mean, that's why we are here. If you need to meet me privately, we are here to. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I think there's also one of my colleagues too that's supposed to do. I don't know. He's supposed to present something on the health insurance or something like that. I don't know. Mr. Roberts. It's all right. Thank you.
All right. So thank you for your attention, please. By 11, we'll have the next session, so please, for the next 15 minutes, we can be on our feet and rub minds with one another before the next session commences at 11. Hello? Please, just for the next 15 minutes, I forgot. I'm very sorry about that. I forgot. There's going to be a small presentation on Facebook. Mr. Franklin will take us on that. Mr. Franklin? You said? I didn't remember again.